Welcome to Giants Latest. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for everything New York Giants. Let's talk about two players that the Giants have brought in from Oklahoma State as part of their top 30 visits. Now, as you guys know, up until draft, they are really focused on these top 30 visits and they have brought in a ton of players so far. So let's start with the Oklahoma State linebacker, Colin Oliver. So he's 6'2, 240 pounds, got an 80 on his athletic score at the combine, and he is projected to be a round 6 draft pick. So let's start with an injury because unfortunately he was only able to play in 2 games in 2024. So some of the evaluations when it comes to him are a little unsure because of that. So he is a natural edge rusher though. So he has really good fluidity and movement, but he's lacking the size or length to project him as a 3 down player. So could be someone who would be good in the rotation. And look, as a 6th rounder, I mean, I don't think anyone would expect him to be a starting player. That would be amazing. But based on what the Giants have done so far, I would see him as more of a rotational piece. So some of his strengths is that his athleticism creates unpredictable pass rush tracks. Love to see that. And listen, when we talk about getting to the quarterback, it's obviously been a complaint from many of us Giants fans that, some of the edge rushers that they have seem to lack the moves or the speed to be able to win those one-on-one battles. So this guy is obviously extremely athletic, and that could obviously lead to benefit him. So his another strength of his is that he responds to early movement by run blockers, and he has athletic qualities to compete in man coverage. So could be an option for a 6th rounder. I think when it comes to a linebacker, the Giants have actually brought in quite a few linebackers as free agents this offseason, mostly guys who play more of special teams. But I would like to see them draft a linebacker who could be in the rotation between Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden. I think that they don't necessarily need an upgrade there, but I do think that having someone in the rotation who'd be able to help out McFadden would be great. McFadden, unfortunately, has struggled with some injuries, and even though he's been a good player out there, to have someone that would be in the rotation is great. Now, the thing about him is he sounds more like he's going to be more of an edge rusher than an actual typical run blocking linebacker. But I think that it sounds like he has some versatility and he would have the option to do both. So we will see about that. Another strength that he has is that he's able to bend and win at the top of the rush or work back underneath. So obviously has some good strengths. Let's talk about a couple weaknesses here and then we'll move along to talk about the cornerback. So he creates no real problems with speed to power rush tries. Again, something that we seem to have an issue with when it comes to edge rushers for the Giants. Requires more reps and schooling to play a stack linebacker. So again, something that I think the Giants could improve upon. One of the issues that he also had, which will make him fit right in with the Giants, is that he struggled badly to finish tackles in 2023 as a linebacker. And you guys all know how I feel about the missed tackle situation that is unfortunately plaguing the New York Giants, something that they need to work on. So a 6th rounder, that's kind of what you're working with. So let's move along here to the cornerback, Corey Black from Oklahoma State. So he's big, fast, productive, and experienced. He is one of the only other cornerbacks in the class to run a 4.35 or faster. And he's 6'2", 192 pounds. He ran a 4.35 in the 40-yard dash and a 39-inch vertical jump. So he has a lot of experience. He's been a starter for over 2,300 snaps, but he's only 22 years old, which is great. Last year in 2024, he led the Big 12 with 12 total pass breakups and interceptions, and his role was as demanding as any other corner in this class. So something else that I think is interesting that I want to point out here is he played 48% of his snaps in man coverage, which Jordan Clark from Notre Dame and Travis Hunter, of course, for Colorado, were the only 2 corners in the class with a higher man coverage rate. So this is going to be someone to watch. I love that the Giants brought him in. And when they compare him to some other cornerbacks, Quincy Riley, who I have talked about that I love, Will Johnson, and Jody Barron, those guys will probably get drafted actually ahead of Corey Black, but he is right on par with those guys. So he is really comfortable on an island Look out, Tay Banks. And he is ready to contribute as a rookie. So I think he's a name to watch that if the Giants go after, do not go after, or they can't get Travis Hunter at 2, which I think is very much going to be a possibility that he's not going to be there at 3, that this could be a guy to watch for him. Maybe with the 34th pick, I don't see where the draft projection is. Oh, excuse me. Yes, I do. He is a 4th rounder. They have potentially an early 4th rounder. So could be an option for the Giants. Not at 34, but instead with one of those 3rd round picks that they have, or maybe an early 4th rounder. So Corey Black, a name to watch for the Giants as a cornerback, could be a great option. So, speaking of the 3rd overall pick, let's talk here about Abdul Carter because he got some really good news from Indianapolis. So, he actually went back there to get medically cleared from doctors. And obviously, we know about the stress fracture issue that he is having with his foot. So, according to Indianapolis, he is on pace with his healing. Everything looks good, and he does not need surgery. So, according to his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, that means it basically should be a non factor for teams. Now, we will see how teams really feel about that. Obviously, the fact that he was cleared is huge, and he's on pace to be healing really well and should be ready to go. And the fact that he doesn't need surgery right now is great. Now, it doesn't mean that he'll never need surgery, and it doesn't mean that it'll never be an issue. I know there are a lot of Giants fans who are worried about that, and I get it. I am right there with you. But I do think the fact that it's healing right, he doesn't need surgery, means that I would probably still pick him at 3. The shoulder issue injury that he's dealing with is not long term, so I don't really think that that's going to be an issue for him. I just love him. I think he would be a really good player on this Giants team, and I think he would be a great pick at 3. And I think if he's there, you have to take him, and you just deal with the injury stuff later. If he needs surgery, guess what? Probably almost every other player on the Giants team has had surgery at some point. So I don't know. I don't think it should prevent them from drafting him at 3, and I don't think that it will. So let's talk about Kayvon as we talk about this edge rusher position, because May 1st is the day where the Giants will have to decide whether or not they are going to pick up the 5th-year option for Kayvon Thibodeaux and Evan Neal. Now, let's talk about the cost for both of those, because I think it's very interesting, and I did not realize that Evan Neal's 5th-year option is actually higher than Kayvon Thibodeaux, which is shocking. So Evan Neal is $16.685 million. And if you're the New York Giants, you just have to say no. Like, I don't think that there's any chance that they are picking up Evan Neal's 5th-year option. He has done nothing to prove to you that to this point that, number 1, he should be on this team for a 5th year, and number 2, he's worth almost $17 million for 1 year. The guy's probably not even going to be a starter this year. So I don't see them picking up his option, but I do think that they will pick up Kayvon's. Kayvon's is $14.751 million if they pick it up. And I think that they're more likely to do that. Look, Kayvon has been a decent football player for them. He's been good, not great. Obviously, I don't think that he was worth the 5th overall pick. I think we would probably all agree on that if you're the 5th overall pick, you need to be an absolute monster on the field, and that's just not him. And, something else that I've talked about when it comes to Kayvon is that you look at Aiden Hutchinson, who is drafted number 1 overall, and then you look at Kayvon, who is drafted 4 spots later, okay? We are talking top 5 players in the class. He's just not even close to being anywhere remotely as good as Aiden Hutchinson. He's just not. Like, it's not even a close comparison. So it's just, I don't know. It's just wild to me that people are like, well, I wouldn't take Abdul Carter because we have Kayvon. I mean, that's not a good enough reason for me not to take him. So I would pick up, if I'm the Giants, I'm picking up the 5th-year option. I'm taking Abdul Carter if he's there at 3, and I'm seeing how the season goes. And if Kayvon has a decent year, a good year, maybe you keep him or maybe you trade him. The best situation for the Giants is that if they get Abdul Carter, that Kayvon plays better. And then you can either get more for Kayvon if you want to trade him, or you say, hey, we've got 3 really good pass rushers on our football team. What is better than that? Who doesn't want that? You know when was the last time the Giants did that? When they won Super Bowls. That's when that happened. So if I'm the Giants, that's the move. That's what I'm doing. And I think for almost $15 million, you keep him. He's a lot cheaper than Brian Burns. And like I said, if he has a good year, then great. That's what we want out of all of these players. And it's less money than Evan Neal. And if you're not picking up Evan Neal's 5th year option, which, oh my God, I hope they don't, then, you're saving a little bit of money that way. Let's talk about the Browns because we have talked a lot about their quarterback situation and just a lot of scratching heads going on here. Like, what on earth are they doing at the quarterback situation? Because there's been so many different reports that say that they are not sold on Shador Sanders. And maybe that is all BS. That is very possible. But if they weren't sold on Shador, because now we're hearing, that they didn't bring him in for more visits, and instead they're talking about Travis Hunter left and right, and they also love Abdul Carter, which how could you not love both of those players, right? And I think there's a lot to like about Shador Sanders too. I just think that ultimately a lot of executives feel like he is not worth the 3rd overall pick or the 2nd overall pick when you've got other guys like Hunter and Carter who are just better players at that spot. So I was very surprised to see that the Browns ended up signing Joe Flacco because, there was all this talk about Kenny Pickett was their guy and so many questions about what they were going to do in the draft. So now knowing that Deshaun Watson is likely to be out this entire season, you have to have some sort of veteran. And I'm sorry, Kenny Pickett is not a good veteran. So I think bringing back Joe Flacco was the move. I don't know what took them so long to do it. He got them to the playoffs just 2 years ago. So I think it was a great move. I'm, like I said, surprised that it took them that long. The question is, will that affect what they do at number 2, meaning will it affect the Giants? And in my opinion, I don't think so. I think at this point, it's been determined that they are not going Shador Sanders at 3 or 2. And look, you never know. Everything can change on draft night. We will see. But I think it's very interesting that they could have waited until after the draft to pick up Joe Flacco. Unless Joe Flacco is telling them, listen, I'm getting calls from the Vikings and I'm going to go be the starter there, potentially the backup to JJ McCarthy, which would be wild. But I don't see any of that happening. I highly doubt that Joe Flacco was getting a bunch of other calls. He got the one other call to the Giants, came into the visit, and then they picked Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson over him, which is not really surprising, but that's what they ended up doing. So I think the timing of it is very interesting. They decided to do it before the draft. So to me, it really just says that they are out on Shador Sanders at 2. And I think it's the same thing with the Giants. And I think it's going to go either Carter or Hunter or vice versa. And I think that that's the best move. I think it's the right move for both teams. And we will see what really happens on draft night. But I just think the timing of it all is fascinating. Let me know what you guys think in the comments and stay tuned for more Giants latest.